How's it going, everyone? James Lynch here for OddsChecker US, doing my breakdown of Saturday's UFC Vegas 9 main event, which features Alistair Overeem taking on Augusto Sakai in a heavyweight fight. Let's start first with Alistair Overeem, 40 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. He's got a 46-18 record. Overeem's been fighting for a long time. He actually made his pro debut back in October of 1999. So here's a guy who's seen it all as far as MMA goes. He's coming off a really big win in his last fight over Walt Harris, where he had a lot of trouble in that first round. He was nearly finished and was able to persevere and come back and get the TKO finish in the second round. Right now, Overeem is the betting favorite, and it's understandable here, just way more experience than his opponent, and comes from a great camp as well at Elevation Fight Team. So you know Overeem is very prepared for this one when he squares off with Sakai this Saturday. Some other accolades with Overeem. He's only one of two fighters to hold world titles in both K1 and MMA. He's also a former Strikeforce champion, a former Dream heavyweight champion. So this guy has all the accolades outside the UFC, except the one thing he is missing is a UFC heavyweight title, but he's come close a few times and has looked pretty good in the octagon. The only loss he's had recently in his current winning streak is the loss to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, but that was a fight where Overeem was winning the majority of the fight and ended up getting finished at the very last minute in that one. So you could almost count that as a win if he would have just held on a little bit longer. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with a guy in Sakai who has not lost a single fight in the octagon. Sakai is 15-1-1. He's 29 years old. He's 6'3" with a 77-inch reach advantage in this fight. So Overeem a little bit bigger, but Sakai, the younger guy, has not taken as much damage. As much as I've talked about Overeem's experience, he's also had a lot of losses. He's lost 7 times in the UFC, which is pretty crazy to think that he's got 11 wins and 7 losses. So as much as he's won a lot of fights, he's also lost a bunch of fights as well too. Now Sakai coming into this one off a interesting win in his last fight against Blagoy Ivanov in a fight that was pretty close. It was a split decision, but the fight a couple fights before that against Andrei Arlovski was a very controversial fight that he ended up winning. If you go to MMAdecisions.com, you can see that 12 media members scored the fight for Arlovski, 0 media members scored the fight for Sakai. So realistically, he could have lost that fight there. But overall, he's had a pretty decent career in the UFC. He got the finish over Chase Sherman, got a knockout win over Marcin Tybura last year at UFC Vancouver. But in general, Sakai's not a guy that really finishes a lot of high-level opponents. That's, I think the evidence we've seen in his UFC career is that when he does fight guys that are a step up in competition, like in Ivanov, like in Andrei Arlovski, he tends to go the distance. And I think with a guy like Overeem, who has so much better striking, who has so much more experience, I don't think it's going to be able to work for him here. So I am going to be picking Alistair Overeem by knockout in this fight. This is a 5-round fight, so keep that in mind as well in terms of looking at both fighters. Overeem has championship experience as well, like I mentioned. So if this does go the distance, he'll be more than prepared. Sakai doesn't have that. Here's a guy who only has a couple fights in the UFC, where Overeem has 18 fights in the octagon, which is pretty crazy to think how long he's been in the sport here. So I want to know what you guys think of this fight below. Let me know your pick. Who do you think is going to win? How do you think they're going to get it done? Make sure you subscribe to the OddsChecker US YouTube channel here, where you'll find my breakdowns every week, along with my interviews as well. And follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Lynch on Sports. And I'm James Lynch, like I said. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.